After 51 episodes of reviewing WWE's ECW, the finish line is just within reach. There's been some good, I think. There's definitely been some bad. And let's not forget the downright ugly. There's also been a lot of spicy moments too, which is really no surprise for WWE during this period. It was a horny time, and I think we all know who was mostly responsible for that.
It was me all along!
But don't be sad, folks. All good things must come to an end. Plus, we're not quite done yet, as today we're diving into the final episode in the first year of WWE's ECW. Hello, and welcome to the first year of WWE's ECW, the show where we take a look back at the first 52 episodes of WWE's re-envisioning of Extreme Championship Wrestling. Episode 52 opens with a shot of Titan Towers with the WWE flag flying at half-mast. The camera crew then cuts to Joey Styles and Taz at ringside, informing us that this episode of ECW is an episode of mourning the WWE chairman Vince McMahon. A replay of the previous night's segment on Raw that led to McMahon's on-screen death then plays out. Vince walks calmly down to the ring, holds a microphone for a couple of minutes, not saying a word, until he mumbles, "Thank you," into the microphone before exiting the arena. Vince then walked past a large selection of the WWE roster on his way to his limousine, including Shannon Moore, who we haven't seen on ECW since God knows when. It wasn't long after Punk called him a poser and then bitch slapped him. When Vince gets outside of the building, he turns around several times and looks at the two men by the exit door, almost as if he's sensing something is wrong. McMahon then steps into his limousine, and as soon as the door is shut, it explodes and becomes a raging inferno. And that's the story of how Vince McMahon killed himself off of WWE TV for an incredibly short period of 2 weeks. And I should add, which was because of the man appearing in the main event of episode 52 later on tonight. Back in the Philadelphia arena, Taz says,
"Tonight will be a very special edition of ECW. There will be a series of matches dedicated to the memory of Mr. McMahon."
The Philly crowd then boos heavily for a 10-bell salute to McMahon. And we're off to the races, boys. It's the first match of the night. I wonder who it's going to be. I'm sure WWE will pull out all the stops in the first ever ECW match. It's the Zombie. Of course.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
We're kicking off the Vince McMahon ECW Memorial Show with an Extreme Rules match for our opening contest between ECW Originals Tommy Dreamer and Balls Mahoney. This was a decent enough bout with some good weapon spots in it, including the use of a kitchen sink. There's something you don't see in your average WWE no DQ match. I think the general rule of thumb for hardcore matches is as long as there's a table spot of some kind, you probably put on a half decent bout. If there's no table spot, it's a crap hardcore match. After Dreamer avoids a leg drop through a table, which kinda passes for a table spot, just about, he hits Mahoney with the Dreamer DDT on a steel chair to pick up the win. This was an interesting bout to kick off ECW, considering that Dreamer and Mahoney teamed up with each other last Tuesday to face the then ECW World Champion Bobby Lashley. The story behind this one is very much two ECW legends battling it out the only way they know how, in some sort of weird Extreme Rules tribute to McMahon. There's mutual respect shown between Mahoney and Dreamer at the start and end of this match. Vince McMahon continues his tour of the backstage area, next bumping into Sabu. He says, and I quote,
"I thought I was in Texas. Hell, I'm not in Texas. I'm in Afghanistan. Look, boys, it's a member of the Taliban."
Oh my word. Next up, our school teacher Matt Striker takes on the Boogeyman, and he's coming to get ya, in the latter's debut on the ECW brand. I should take this moment to point out that the first half of the 2007 WWE draft took place on the previous night's episode of Raw. You know, the one where Vince also died. The main drafts for ECW were the Boogeyman and Chris Benoit, who will be in his debut match on the brand later tonight in the main event when he teams up with Straight Edge Phil. The main outgoings for ECW in the first half of the draft were the world champion Bobby Lashley and the monster of ECW Snitsky, who both got drafted to Raw. Oddly enough, they haven't mentioned the fact that Lashley was stripped of the ECW world title as a result of him being drafted to Raw. Who knows, maybe they'll mention it later in the episode. I'm just giving you the first half of the draft there. Here's a quick look at the second half of it that was announced on June 17th on WWE.com. Now, I liked the Boogeyman when I was a kid, but when Joey Styles and Taz said that he was the first draft pick for ECW, I was a bit flabbergasted. I mean, that's insane, isn't it? What were the other draft options? Plus, Benoit, a former world champion, was snubbed for first draft pick by the f***ing Boogeyman. That's mental. It's a bit different and unpredictable, I'll give him that. Plus, I would love to have reviewed Boogeyman's run on the brand. I have a feeling it wasn't very good. You don't ever hear that much about it, but who knows, maybe it was super underrated. We may never know. As you might have predicted, in the ring, Boogeyman beats the crap out of Striker for the vast majority of the match, with Striker's minimal offense cut short by ECW's first draftee. In the end, Boogeyman hits a chokeslam to pick up his first victory on the brand. And of course, next it's time for the coup de grace as he proceeds to feed Matt Striker worms from his gob. Our new backstage correspondent, Rebecca Di Pietro, is that how you say it? Anyway, she's backstage with Rob Van Dam ahead of his match with the Big Show later tonight. Before asking her a question, RVD gets a subtle telling off for not looking her dead in the eye.
Rob.
Okay. Bit strange that Rebecca is demanding RVD intensely stare into her soul while she asks the question. I mean, it's not unusual that RVD seems away with the fairies. He probably smoked some grass right before this interview.
Smoke weed every day.
Before the main event, we're shown exclusive footage of firefighters putting out McMahon's limousine from the previous night's episode of Raw. When we return back to the arena, Joey Styles informs us that it took over 10 minutes of constant water pressure to extinguish those flames. Taz and Styles then go into detail about the smell of McMahon's burning flesh, and presumably the limo driver. Ladies and gentlemen, for one last time, it's main event time, folks. ECW's second draft pick after the Boogeyman, former world champion Chris Benoit makes his way down to the ring for his first match on the brand, as he teams up with Straight Edge Phil to take on the team of Elijah Burke and Marcus Corvon. Christ, it feels like I've been watching some variation of this tag match where Punk teams up with someone to take on Burke and Corvon for eternity. Or just singles competition where Punk takes on a member of the New Breed. So here we go again. Tag team action with Punk and the New Breed. It wasn't the main event that I would have liked to have closed out the series. It's not even Benoit's last match, which happened the following week when he took on Elijah Burke one-on-one. That would have been an interesting way to finish the series. Regardless, this is the match we got. So how was it? Pretty boring, to be completely honest with you. A totally bog standard tag match for the most part. In fact, I don't remember being enthralled by any of the New Breed Punk matches that I've previously seen, and this was the same. I was looking forward to seeing Benoit in this match, but he wasn't even tagged in for the most part. On top of all of that, the ending of the match was utter garbage. Marcus Corvon, who is not the legal man, is in the middle of body slamming Punk when referee Scott Armstrong is on a 3 count. By the time Corvon slams Punk down, Armstrong has reached the 5 count and rings the bell for a DQ. I'm not sure if this was the intended finish of the match or not. Armstrong yelling at the timekeeper and him not initially ringing the bell would lead me to believe that it wasn't. But who knows, maybe the timekeeper just dozed off momentarily. All 4 men then begin to scrap in the ring. After Corvon is dealt with by Punk, Benoit then hits Burke with 3 German suplexes, a diving headbutt, and locks in the sharpshooter as Burke taps out. The winners by DQ then stare down Burke and Corvon on the outside of the ring. We cut back after the break to Heyman and some of the ECW boys huddling up and going over the game plan. A door then closes in the background and the boys look around. Phew, there's no one there. Must have just been the wind. This was a fairly average episode of WWE's ECW. I can't sit here and say that the 3 matches we had on this episode were that bad, but at the same time, they were all a bit boring. I suspect a large part of that was them having no storylines behind any of the bouts, minus the Punk match. The Punk New Breed rivalry is still going strong, and I don't know who really wants to see it at this point. It ran its course a long time ago and should have been put to bed when Punk defeated Burke at Judgment Day. As for the elephant in the room, I didn't find it weird watching Benoit in action, although I can't remember the last time I watched a match of his. I suppose in this instance, I could separate art from the artist. I could have spent an age talking about the ins and outs of the McMahon death storyline, but I feel like that's a video for another time, and didn't want to derail the review of the final episode in the first year of WWE's ECW. Not that there was a ton to talk about, to be fair. Episode 52's main focus was on Vince McMahon's on-screen death. I'm going to give the final episode in the first year of WWE's ECW 2 stars out of 5. Well folks, That's it. Every episode covered and reviewed in the first year of WWE's re-envisioning of ECW. There was a point that I didn't think I would be able to get to episode 52, but I'm so glad that I did, and I'm happy that I finished a series that I set out to do around April in 2024. I might have got there a bit sooner, but life got in the way for a bit, so apologies for the inconsistency over the past year. I want to say a massive thank you to anybody that has supported the series along the way. It really means a lot, and for those of you that are still here and made it to the end with me, I salute you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you around.